as an administrator, the most important thing for us is to make sure we have the right team, right? We want to make sure as the leader of our school that we have the right teachers who will be there to buy into the philosophy, the vision, and then implement and make those connections with the kids to disseminate that information in the proper way so these individuals will be great learners, right? So they will be, not just working academically doing well, but also socially, emotionally feeling healthy from the experience that they had in the classroom. So what are a few things that to look for that right candidate, right? So here's some things I wanted to kind of look at from an article from Brian Goodwin, got it from like the Marshall Memos, is that talks about a few things, and I'm just kind of using some of the points that he had made, and it's kind of to my own personal experience on this, is first and foremost, this idea of having, when you have a choice, to have a teacher with some experience plays a big part, right? No doubt about it, there's nothing wrong getting a new, freshly teacher because sometimes there are potential, but even that teacher, you want to look at, did they get any experience? Did they teach anything in the college? Did they do some tutoring on the side? When they did their student teaching, what did the teacher, how did they, student teacher perceive them? But if they were doing something on the side, maybe a weekend school, they may in the community that they might have, even their faith-based weekend school where it gives them an opportunity interaction, maybe they did a summer camp, that all plays a big part, even if it's a new teacher. But if someone who has some veteran, at least 5 to 6, 7 years is great because that kind of gives them an idea. Did they teach that same subject over so they know it really well? Did they been moved every year? That brings up a concern. Sometimes, wait a bit, some might say, well, we'll have a 15, 20-year teacher. That's good, but then also, are they sometimes set in their ways? As new things are moving and new technologies coming, new pedagogy and so ideas, students' behavior is different. Can they adapt to that? So I want you to realize it's so important that there's not that one concrete answer, but in every group of the 15 to 20, those are the concerns that you have to think about. Are they open-minded? Are they flexible? Are they still keeping up with the new norms? Are they still developing, professionally developing, understanding the new groups of students and the pedagogy, the curriculums that they have? Or someone who's new and saying, okay, well, did they get some experience, even if they didn't get enough classroom experience, but are they doing other aspects to work with students? So sometimes when you have someone who has 4, 5, 6 years, then you know that they have that, but even those 5 to 6 years, have they been consistent in one grade or they've just been hopping around? Sometimes that's a worry that, hey, are they just like, they're not good, hey, let's try them here. We don't want to fire them, let's move them there. So those are kind of things to keep in mind. So experience isn't very important, but keeping, even in experience, asking the right questions is so important too. Number 2, the idea of subject area expertise. You want to make sure that they know their subject, right? When someone knows their information or their knowledge, that plays a big part. And I think that's so important that we have to kind of keep in mind that because when we don't do stuff like that, that becomes problematic. So it's so important that subject area, it is so important that they know their area, especially for middle school, high school. You want them to know their concept, because when you want kids to do critical thinking and ask the questions and do deep dives, you need to make sure the teacher knows their concepts really well. So it's so important that brings up the third, is their strong academic preparation. It's so important to look at the grades of their class. If they got C's and D's in mathematics and they're going to be teaching math, that's of a concern. Did they really know the concept? Because if again, sometimes being really good at something, you might not always be the best teacher because you don't understand how people who struggle, but you want to make sure that this individual also kind of knows their information. So where did they, the academic preparation, the school that they went to, what was their GPA, I think plays a big part. Again, not just cognitive ability, but just their work ethic. I think there's a lot you could learn from someone from their academic classroom. Educational attainment, right? Educational attainment is very important because you want to see, like, all right, well, have the bachelor's, did they grow a master's, did they get small endorsements and other things, right? Did they really try to gain and build up their cognitive ability in various subject matters? I think it's so important that you want to look at and see to make sure that if that becomes the right fit. You'll have to see, say, hey, self-efficacy. Did they go through some, when you ask those questions, you want to figure out, like, what's their challenge? What did they go through and how did they went through and how did they develop and how did they become better? Because that helps them understand that. Do they have that rigor, the grit to move forward and to, and to deal with stuff? Because in education and learning, you are going to have those challenges. So you want to make sure that is something that is very important. Ability to connect with students, right? Is that something that they've done before? Did they, have experience and say, well, tell me some examples of what you've done to connect with students? Even when they were maybe in a high school or college, were they part of the Big Brother, Big Sister program? Were they Were they part of some tutoring program? Because that gives them a really idea. Like someone could always say, yes, I love kids. But if you love kids, what did you do? Give me examples of how you went above and beyond when you didn't have to. So when you're taking your personal time to work with kids at a high school level, or a college level before, or even when you're teaching, you're doing some stuff on the side that really shows people that you have that person has that love for it. So I think that helps. And then the last thing is to making sure that are they individuals who are socially emotionally aware of themselves, having their own realizations of who they are, self-awareness, but at the same time of others, right? Do they have self-empathy and stuff? So I think those kind of thought processes also play a big part. So having so again, come and double check regarding experience and how important that is, but even asking the right questions at whatever level of experience they have. The subject area expertise was number 2, so that they know they're having strong academic preparations, looking at their GPAs and looking at how well they did in their subject matter that they might be teaching, and their expectations in their higher education of bachelor's, getting their endorsements and seeing that they themselves were trying to learn and go above and beyond, self-efficacy, looking at themselves and being aware of their own challenges and developing, working on those challenges, working and developing and making themselves better. Ability to connect with students, I think that becomes huge. And the key factor is that, hey, what are the stuff they've done in the classroom outside the school hours? From when they were younger to even at another school that they came from. Did they do any after school activities? Were they part? Did they visit a lot of the school games where they would try to build a relationship with kids? That shows you a lot. And then the social emotional awareness, right? You want to really look at, hey, what are they doing? Are they doing their own evaluations, reflections on themselves, and realize how they could bring that into the classroom, and then what are some steps that they do in the lessons to build that sense of belonging, building that social emotional aspect and making them kids feel strong and comfortable in the classroom that they are. So hopefully these are some things to kind of think about, and hopefully good luck with interviewing.
We are honored to say this video is sponsored by Amana Mutual Funds. Amana Mutual Funds favors companies with low price to earnings multiples, strong balance sheets, and proven businesses. They follow a value-oriented approach consistent with Islamic finance principles. Start investing in a pure way today with Amana Mutual Funds.